Hey there. As always, this is for entertainment purposes only. Not a therapist. I'm not giving you legal advice. Not giving you financial advice. I'm actually not giving you any advice. I'm telling you my story in hopes to inspire your own. Okay, back to Amsterdam to continue on with my Amsterdam videos. If you haven't viewed the first one posted, then you may want to go back as this is a continuation of the trip. I was love I was really I can't talk today. I was really loving being in Amsterdam and meandering through my days. For the first time in a long time, I was feeling like myself again, but a new and better version. I was having so much fun, both by myself and my time with Wizard. The time there was flying quickly. I'd done so much healing work to get to this point, and it was really fun just enjoying every moment, every laugh, and the adventure that each new day brought. I wasn't doing tons of scheduling, I was coaching at night sometimes, but I was really just enjoying myself for the first time in a long time. As I mentioned to you many times, I'm taking you through my journey as it happened, and this time's no different. I was about to record that. Let me start over. I'm taking you through my journey as it's happening. So at the time, I was about to record my video that was about hitting my rock bottom the last time that I saw Hottie. And I was really dreading revisiting those memories. And I knew that it would be super hard and bring up the emotions of devastation. And I shared that with Wizard. And he told me to ping him when I was done and headed to what had become our regular hang spot, the Embassy of the Free Mind. It took me what felt like forever to record that video. And if you're interested, you can see it in February of 2023. And yes, I know that it's taken me a while to cover my whole journey, but c'est la vie. It takes how long it takes. Anyways, well, it took me forever to actually record the video. Once I got started and got into it, it was pretty seamless. And while it was emotional, it was kind of like pulling off a stuffed band aid. It felt pretty good to have it done. And even though after I finished it, I was cranky as hell, I was thrilled to have it off my back. And because I was cranky and pissed, my walk to the embassy was pretty fast. And I texted Wizard on the way to tell him I was headed. And I warned him that I was pretty cranky because I'm always a fan of fair warnings. Sorry, guys. I don't know why I can't talk today, but I'm going to finish this damn video without editing. So there you go. You'll just have to put up with my stuttering. And although I didn't know it at the time, the universe was looking out for me as usual. I told you before I'm terrible at directions. And even though I'd been to the embassy numerous times, I still didn't know how to walk there without Google Maps. And when I got close to the embassy with the Google Maps, it started to malfunction. And I literally walked around the same damn canal like 10 times. There's not an easy way to get through it. And so I kept having to walk around the damn canal. And I was super pissed. And by the 10th time, I think, I was pretty damn tired. I talked to Wizard and told him that I was running late because I kept getting lost. And he already knew my bad sense of direction anyway. He made me laugh my ass off because when I told him that he might want to hide because I was so cranky, he teased me about being able to hide in just plain sight because I'd never make it to the embassy, seeing I kept getting lost around the canal, and I'd never be able to find him. Between all the exerted energy stomping around the canal numerous times and him making me laugh on my way, by the time I finally arrived, I was in much better shape than previously. He eyeballed me when I got there, gave me one of his hugs that I loved so much, and then sat me down in the coffee shop and then just talked to me. I don't remember what we talked about that day, but I'll tell you I remember how it felt. It felt just putting aloe on a sunburn. Tingly, soothing, and just pure relief. I know, sounds a little dramatic, but that's how it felt. I remember it. And again, for what seemed like the 100th time in such a short period of time, he just showed up, was there, and gave me a safe place to be. Didn't solve it, didn't judge me, didn't ask him if I needed him to be there. He just showed up and was there and let me lead into his solid strength. Kind of like a grand old oak tree, albeit a hot one. I don't remember if it was that day or another one, but I also benefited from him showing me his favorite mom and pop shops, cheese, wine, whatever I mentioned in our conversation. He waved his magic wand and he took me to a great vibing place. I kept trying to remind myself to be more careful in what I expressed in our conversations about what I loved, as inevitably he'd make it happen, even though I didn't ask for it. Although in talking with him, I didn't really pull any punches, so it was tough to be completely authentic on one hand and not pull any punches. And then on the other hand, be careful that I didn't mention anything I loved because then he'd make it happen. So I just relented finally and just worked on being comfortable with being nurtured. And I worked on him letting me do the same for him. He actually sucks at it just as much as I do. He's not very good at receiving instead of always giving. I loved walking around this city independently too. I found the greatest places in the nooks and crannies of Amsterdam. On the slide behind me, which I know the graphics are terrible, guys. Sorry, that's what happens when you get stalked. You have to hide where the hell you are. But on the slide behind me, I showed my favorite bookstore that I stumbled upon right next to my hotel. It's 5 stories, and it's got quite the selection in a lot of languages. Actually, I lie. That's a picture of the Embassy of the Free Mind. So, sorry. You get to see the embassy instead. I love that place, though, the bookstore I found. It may be on my next slide on the last video, so you guys will just have to follow along. I'm not really disjointed normally. When I'm in a city, and I think I've shared this with you many times, I do things that can only be found there. And I have to tell you, Dutch food was the only thing that just didn't resonate with me. Now, to be fair, maybe I didn't try the right things, but after trying the local dishes that were supposed to be authentic for numerous days and not really being a big fan, I said fuck it and just ate all the yummy dishes of ethnic food that was on offering. I had shawarmas, Indian food, Italian food, whatever I loved. I gave up on the Dutch food. And of course, just like the food, I decided I needed to go and visit an authentic windmill. I like to vibe with what's local and authentic in a city. You guys know that. And I was enjoying this city so much in Amsterdam that I didn't really feel like taking a day trip out of the city to go find the windmills. And so I was lucky enough to find a creative solution through Google. So what you actually see on the slide, so I'm not lying to you, there was a brewery with an authentic windmill right in the middle of Amsterdam. So I was thrilled. It was called Taproom the Windmill. And because the Dutch beer, different than the food, is fantastic, I was super excited. And they say it's Amsterdam's biggest windmill. Although, if I'm honest, I don't even know if there are other windmills in the city. But regardless, I had my plan for my next adventure. It was a couple miles from my hotel, and I hadn't been to that part of the city. So the walk down there was super fun. I FaceTimed with my sister on the way as I had fun catching up with her and showing her the city virtually. When I got to the brewery, even though I'm not a big fan of the cold, I decided to sit outside because it was such a beautiful day. My plan to see the inside of the windmill, however, failed spectacularly, as I found out it was a private residence. Even though that didn't stop me from knocking on the door to try to negotiate and coax my way into a tour, sadly no one answered, so I wasn't able to convince anybody of anything. But I found a great beer and an appetizer and made myself at home in their outside area on the picnic table and looked at the outside of the windmill. Pretty quickly into sitting alone with my yummy beer, 2 African guys joined me at the picnic table. We started talking and had a great conversation. They were refugees, and shortly into the conversation, one of them shared that he had an agricultural tech idea that could help solve a lot of famines in multiple countries with an elegant and simple solution. The more he shared and more I heard, the more on the spot we developed it through conversation. We ended up talking about it for hours. And by the end of the conversation, his demeanor had changed. It seemed like his confidence in himself grew. And I jokingly made him commit to taking the first step to get the funding with a self-imposed deadline. And made his best friend, who was the other guy sitting at the table, commit to giving him a hard time about it and calling him to task about it. Walking away from the conversation, we basically developed the business plan for him. He did it all. I just kind of guided him through it, and he was super excited. He was smiling all about it. And then, after that conversation was ending, the families of the guys showed up, the mom, the sisters, and we had some great small talk for a while. All in all, great way to spend an afternoon. Dusk started to settle in, and so I said my goodbyes and enjoyed walking through the lights of the city on my way home. I love the architecture there, and the city was just as vibrant at night, if not more so. And side note, I didn't even get lost on my way home, so I remember considering that a win. See, I get lost pretty much every day. And although anytime I did get lost finding my hotel, it was pretty easy to find it because it was centered in Dam Square, right next to Dam Square. So the universe was taking care of me by putting me there in that hotel. My friend Mullet was generous enough to come and visit me in the city. I've talked about her on past videos. It was so great seeing her. We always had such a great time, and I needed some girl talk. She was laughing at me because I was describing my time that I was spending with Wizard. She hadn't met him. She attended the first session that I was at Arthur Findlay, and then he was at the second session. She knew how intuitive I was, so I was sharing with her how much I felt about him confused me, and gave her a different analogy than the one I had given you guys on the last video about not being able to read his energy. She was having a really good time with me, stuttering over the fact that I couldn't put my finger on it. I explained that I couldn't really label us as friends, but how much I was enjoying the rhythm of our time together, just seemingly happening all the time, and how good I felt when I was with him, but yet just couldn't get my arms around what it was and why. She was completely amused by my confusion, complete confusion. We were also talking about our gifts and the philosophy that we shared about trying to use multiple gifts at once. We crafted an experiment that I wanted to try out, and she generously offered to be my guinea pig. I decided seeing at Arthur Findlay, just feeling like I was sitting there meditating while I was healing, and my guides did the healing. It bored me. I told you guys about that in an earlier video. I know this probably doesn't make sense to those of you who haven't explored your own gifts, so feel free to fast forward the video if you're so inclined. Anyway, I decided I wanted to simultaneously test my mediumship abilities while doing healing. And just because I like to make things difficult for myself, you know by now I'm hard-headed, I wanted to test it in a noisy environment, so I decided to test it in the lobby of my hotel. While I won't go into the videos, I won't go into the details, not the videos, I'm doing the video. Well, I won't go into the details of it all because I don't proverbially kiss and tell with my mediumship. Suffice to say, it actually worked, to my great surprise. And at one point, the visuals from the channeling started making me laugh. And when I was laughing, it was super hard to heal at the same time. It's kind of like encountering a kink in your water hose when you're trying to water your plants. That kink in my healing hose happened a couple times, actually. Once when I was laughing, and a couple times when I got in my head about trying to get to the root of the name of the person who was coming through in my mediumship, so I could be more definitive for Mullet. Not only did the session build more confidence with my skills, I knew she wouldn't care if nothing came through, so I felt pretty safe with just experimenting with all of that. But it also proved our philosophy of deepening our skills, utilizing multiple ones at a time. At Arthur Findlay, they seem to really focus on one skill at a time and seem to frown on bringing other gifts into the mix during that process. Now, of course, that may just be my perspective, but life seems much messier and integrated than that, and it drove me crazy during our sessions when other gifts were kicking in that they weren't validated, and I was told I was in my head. Now, Arthur Findlay was a great foundational learning, but it was really fun trying to mix my gifts up. I was really building my gifts based on what intuitively felt right for the first time, and even though the experiment wasn't perfect, I considered it a huge win. I ended the day with Mullet having a lovely dinner with her husband, too. Sadly, Wizard wasn't able to join at the last minute, and I was disappointed that he wasn't able to meet Mullet and have her meet him. Now, I'd be lying if I didn't say that a big part of why I was disappointed in the fact that he didn't come was that seeing Mullet has mad skills, that I thought she could provide a little clarity on what she thought of him and why I couldn't read his energy, although I know they would have gotten along swimmingly. And to this day, the two of them remain two of the most powerfully gifted people that I know, so I would love to see them together. My time was supposed to be ending in Amsterdam, and even though I knew that it would be exceeding the budget that I had budgeted for my lodging, I wasn't quite ready to leave for Tango in Argentina yet. And I hadn't completed the mission that I went to Amsterdam for in the first place, that I'll talk about in the next video. Plus, I was having a fantastic time. So I talked to the front desk people, who were exceedingly kind to me all the time. And they not only extended my stay, but also arranged a nice discounted rate for me. Really special people there. I was enjoying the heck out of my life and my nomad travels, and I was looking forward to more extended time in Amsterdam. So see you next time for the final video about Amsterdam. Have a great week, and I hope this inspires you to take the next steps on your own adventures, no matter what they are. Until next time, take care.